Okay, today we shall be developing a best regression model. We shall be developing a good regression model. If possible, we shall try to develop a good regression model. So that is our target for today. And here we have taken few variables such as consumption, that is our first variable, and we have taken second variable, that is GDP, and the third variable is import. We have taken this 3 time series variable to estimate a good regression model, and the variables are here. You can see consumption, GDP, and import. I can make it zoom for you. Just see the variables are here, right? So these are the variables, right? And it is from 1970 until 1980. So this is my model, my variables. So, and I can open all the variables to show you, right? Just 1 minute. I can open these 3 variables as a group. You can see the consumption, gross domestic product, and import. We have these 3 variables from 1970 until 1980, and here GDP is our dependent variables, and consumption and import are independent variables, meaning that we want to check whether consumption and import can influence GDP or not. That we want to check whether consumption and import can influence GDP or not. That we want to check today. Okay, so to become a good regression model, there should be fulfilled few criteria. Only then we can say a particular estimated regression model is good, statistically desirable. Okay, but first we estimate this model first. How to estimate? I go to quick estimate equation. I choose here, and the first we always put the dependent variable, that is GDP. Then we should put constant, that is C. Then we put our 2 independent variable. One is consumption and the second one is the import. So that is our model to be built. Okay, I can show you the model with a zoom. See the models here? It is the zoom, right? It is the zoom of the model. You can see the model is here, and the sample size is from 1970 until 1980, right? Sample size. Okay, now I want to estimate it, right? So I press OK. So this is the estimated GDP model, estimated regression model, I can say. And here the GDP is the dependent variable, and these Consumption and import are the independent variable in this model. Okay, suppose I choose consumption. The coefficient of consumption is 70.02 and the corresponding standard error is 105.90. Now if I divide the coefficient 70.02 by standard error 105.90, I can see the t statistics, that is 0.66. It is always what is the formula of t statistics? It is always coefficient divided by standard error, that we can get the t value, and the p value is 52.71%. that is the corresponding p value or the probability value. And the same thing happen for import. Coefficient divided by standard error, we can get the t statistics, that is minus 0.292534, and the corresponding p value, how much? 77.73%. But here is one thing. The one thing is that absolute t statistics means there is no negative sign or positive sign, absolute value. So meaning that what will happen all the time, absolute t statistics and the probability between these two, they have always opposite association shape, meaning that if the t statistics goes up, probability value will go down, or if the t statistics goes down, the p value will go up. All the time it will happen, all the time. Suppose I take this one, absolute t statistics is 0.11, that is the lowest. As a result, corresponding p value is the highest, 91.44%. Okay, in other way you can see from here, suppose this one, absolute t statistics is the highest, but corresponding p value is the lowest, that is 52.71%. So that will always happen. What about this one, the t statistics minus 0.29? We shall ignore the minus sign because we are choosing the absolute value, meaning that this thing would be 0.29, not minus 0.29, just 0.29 and the corresponding p value. Okay, so meaning that absolute t statistics and p value has a opposite association shape, and it will always happen in a estimated regression model. Okay, now the question is that how to become a good regression model from the statistical point of view. There are few criteria. Number one criteria I put here, number one, the R square value should be greater than 60%. that is desirable all the time. Meaning that you can see from our model how much is r square. You can check from here. Here is how much r square. You can see from here. Just 1 minute. Here the r square, actually the value of r square of our model is, I just put it, value of r square of our model is 5.29%. that is the value of r square. Okay, what does it mean, 5.29% r square value? Okay, it means that, you know, the GDP is the dependent variable. This GDP depends on independent variable such as consumption and import. So that means okay, that means we can say other way, 5.29%, meaning that we can say 5.29% variation, meaning that fluctuation of GDP can be explained by two variables jointly, such as consumption and import. In other way, I can say that consumption and import can influence only 5.29% on GDP, and the rest is how much? Total 100% variation in GDP minus 5.29% variation. How much is the rest? Suppose I take it 74%, suppose, right? So what does mean by 74% here? It means that 74% fluctuation or variation in GDP can be explained by other variables which are not included in this regression model, right? That means outside independent variables, outside factors that influence GDP, how much? 74%. But inside factors such as consumption and import can influence only how much? 5.29%. So that means actually GDP, consumption and import, they are not related variables, because consumption and import influence only 5.29% on GDP. So meaning that this model is not good fitted, not good fitted, not good fitted, because r square value is very small, meaning that internal influence is very small, but external influence is very big, and that is 74%. And these other factors, other variables, that is called actually residual, and that is 74%, right? So this model is not good because r squared is small. So we are not happy about this model, about this thing, right? Okay. Okay, that is one criteria, that r square should be more than 60%. Then only we can say that our independent variable, suppose r squared is 70%. Suppose it means that independent variables jointly can influence dependent variable 70%, and the rest 30% can be explained by other independent variables which are not included in this model, meaning that external influence is only 30%, that is small, and internal influence is 70%, so that is big. So we can accept the model. That means the model is good fitted if the r square value is more than 60%. That means higher the r square value, better the fitted all the time. Okay, so this model is not better fitted, so we are not happy. Okay, the second criteria of a good regression model is that most of the independent variables should be significant to have a good regression model. That means we have two variables here, consumption and import. Out of these two, at least one should be significant. Suppose there are 10 variables, should be at least 5 should be significant. Suppose there are 4 variables, at least 2 should be significant. And here at least 1 should be significant. Okay, we check one by one. What about consumption? Is it significant? We check the p-value. What is the p-value? 52.71%. What is the guideline? The guideline is that if the p-value is less than 5%, then that particular variable will be significant. But if the p-value is more than 5%, that particular variable will not be significant. So meaning that here consumption and import, none are significant. None are significant. Meaning that consumption and import individually cannot influence our dependent variable, that is GDP. So this model is not good, right? Individually, consumption and import cannot influence the GDP because the p-value all are more than 5%. Okay, and the third criteria, that all the independent variables should be jointly significant to explain the dependent variable is GDP. That means consumption and import should be jointly significant to explain GDP. So that is the third criteria to be a good regression model. Okay, and here we shall do the F statistics. Okay, last time to check the individual statistics, we do the T statistics. To check the individual significance, we should use the T statistics. But for joint significance, we should use F statistics, not T statistics. T statistics and the corresponding probability it is for individual significance, and for case of joint significance we should use the F statistics and corresponding p-value. Okay, here the p-value is how much? 80.43%, meaning that it is not significant, meaning that consumption and import jointly cannot influence the dependent variable, which is GDP, and that is not desirable. So we are not happy about this model. We are not happy about this model because F statistics is not significant. It should be significant to become a good regression model. Okay, so we are not happy about it. Suppose the p-value here, p-value is less than 5%, then this is a significant, meaning that consumption and import, these two variables jointly can influence our dependent variable, that is GDP. Okay, then we talk about sign. Another thing is sign. Sign of the coefficient. Sign of the coefficient. Sign of the coefficient should follow either economic theory or expectation or intuition. Only then we can say a model is a best regression model. Otherwise it is not. Okay, first I check this one, consumption, right? And the sign is positive. What does it mean? If the sign is positive, meaning that if the consumption goes up by 1 unit, on average GDP would go up by 70.02 unit, provided other independent variable is constant, such as import. Here is import. I can say other way, the sign is positive means if the consumption goes down by 1 unit, GDP would go up 70.02 unit on average, or if the consumption goes up by 1 unit, GDP would go down by 70.02 unit, provided other independent variable is fixed. But here, what is our economic theory? Economic theory says that when the consumption goes up, GDP also goes up, and when the consumption goes down, GDP also goes down. And here it is happening, right? Because the sign is positive and it is complying, it is following the economic theory or expectation, so we are happy about it. The second one, import. What is the sign? Is negative. Negative means if the import goes up by 1 unit, on average GDP goes down by 52.21 unit, provided other independent variable is fixed, such as consumption here. Or we can say other way, if the import goes down by 1 unit, GDP would go up by 52.21 unit on average, provided other independent variable is fixed or constant. And what we know from economic theory? We know from economic theory that when the import goes up, GDP goes down, or when the import goes down, GDP goes up. That we know all the time from the economic theory. And this sign, minus sign, means yes, it is following the economic theory. So here what is happening? Consumption and import both are following economic theory because their sign is all right. Their sign is all right. So this part we are happy about this model because their sign is all right. Okay, so this is done. Okay, the third part, another part of the model, I think that is number 5 issue, that is, okay, this model has a residual, right? Certainly this model has a residual, and that residual should follow some special feature. If they follow those features, then we can say that that regression model is good. Okay, now we draw the residuals, right? How to derive the residual from here? That we can do now. Okay, how to derive residual, right, from these models? We have to draw it now.